everybody. I am HP Holo, sometimes Edie Skye. I write books, and I also interview other people who write books. And today, I am here yet again with Shami Stovall. Hey, Shami.
Hey, how's it going?
You guys may remember
I have my doggo with me, so.
Yes, dog. It's already an amazing podcast. Yes. What's the dog's name? You probably told me last time.
It's Miles.
Miles, yes. Well, pet him for me.
Oh, no, there you go. Lots of pets.
Anyway, you guys may remember Shami from another recent interview I did for her novel, Time Marked Warlock, which is amazing. And today I am here to talk to her about the Frith Chronicles, which starts with, well, there's actually a lot of stuff to talk about today because you got a lot going on with this series.
Yeah.
But I want to say the first in this series is Nightmare Arcanist. And this is another of my favorite books. Shami, you described the series basically as Pokemon meets Harry Potter. And I have to say that I absolutely agree with that description. I listened to it on audio several weeks ago, and I immediately thought that, you know what, I love this as an adult, but I would absolutely love to take this book back through time to my Pokemon and high fantasy loving 7th grade self and hand it to her. Because, you know, there weren't a lot of books like that back then. And so it's like, thank you for writing a book that my inner child and my inner adult both love. But you are also running your second Kickstarter for this series. So we're going to talk about that as well. But before we get into all that, I just want to have you introduce yourself in general, tell people what's cool about you, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Shami Stovall. Shami like the car cloth. It's not short for anything. That's all 5 letters. I would say that I'm not hip to the jive at all. Like, I'm not really a cool kid. I'm one of those weird nerdy people who, when I was, in 7th grade, was watching Pokemon and Digimon and things like Escaflowne and being like, whoa, all those high fantasy things are so amazing.
That makes you cool in this company.
It did not make me cool in 7th grade. Let's just put it that way. Anybody who liked Pokemon in 7th grade was like a baby pariah somehow. You know what I'm saying? So, but I never let go of my love. I don't care how much peer pressure came for me. I just liked it in secret. So, that's mostly me. I mean, I guess, I'm obviously an author, used to be an attorney, used to be a professor that taught law and history. Just a lot of, I feel like sound like boring things on a resume, but that's me.
You have some amazing stories though from your lawyer days, especially.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you want, we could talk for hours about random things that happened in law offices and a courtroom, crazy, embarrassing things, terrible things. Yeah. You just have to keep scheduling me again and again and again because I got too many things to talk about. So
all right. Well, let's see here. Other than Time Marked Warlock, and your not podcast and your Kickstarter, you have books coming out all the time. So what's your next release?
Well, my next release will be Time Marked Warlock 2, which is November 12th. Yeah.
Oh, that's super soon.
Yeah, very soon. Well, it's already done. Dude, books 1 and 2 of the series were done like the beginning of this year, a long time ago. So they've just been waiting really for people to enjoy them. After that will be my Labyrinth Arcanist, which is another book in my Pokemon meets Harry Potter world. After that will probably be Nexus Finale, which is the end of my Lit RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime in 2025, I'll have a new series come out. So yeah, I have a lot of books. I read a lot.
To look forward to. All right. Well, as I said, today we are going to be focusing on the Frith Chronicles and the Kickstarter that you're currently running. Before we get into the main part of this, though, I have, my usual links I have to share. So first off, we are giving away a signed copy of Nightmare Arcanist, the first in the series. So if you want to go for that, and you absolutely should, follow the link that I just put in the comments. It is also going to be on the show notes wherever you're watching. So if you lose it in the comments, don't panic. Also, I know we haven't talked about the Kickstarter yet, but if you just like to contribute to Kickstarters, the Kickstarter link is also in the comment. And then if you just want to just go straight up read the Frith Chronicles and download them off Amazon, the Amazon link is here. And let's see here. I got several links. If you want to go read all of Shami's stuff, while you're listening to this podcast. There's her website. And also, if you just want to support our podcast, we enjoy doing it, and it costs a little bit of money to do it. So I'm putting my little links here. You can buy us a coffee or buy the cat treats. All of it goes to us and helps keep this little podcast running. So now, the way we're going to structure this actual interview, the Kickstarter is for a special edition of books 3 and 4, right? So
Yes.
since that is for later in the series, I want to start by talking about the series in general a little bit, and then we will move on to talking about the Kickstarter and what makes this particular edition of books 3 and 4 so cool. And then we're also going to talk about Pokemon, because oh my gosh, that panel that the two of us ran together at PCon was incredible. You guys, I went in expecting to talk Pokemon for what, an hour, and I mainly just ended up making grilled cheeses and listening to Shami be amazing. You have so much more love for Pokemon than I do, and I love Pokemon. It was a spectacle and incredible, and we're absolutely going to emulate part of that panel sometime in this. So
I'm
first
excited.
off, all right. So first off, give us a general overview of the Frith Chronicles. Like, what do people need to know to be able to appreciate the Kickstarter we're about to talk about? We'll chatter about characters and stuff too. But
yeah, so the Frith Chronicles is definitely my love letter to adventure, Pokemon, Digimon, any sort of monster taming, anything, Monster Rancher, Azure Dreams, which is kind of a deep cut, things like that. I played them all when I was younger. I really, really like the idea of magical animal companions. It's just one of my favorite things in anything. So when I wrote this series, I really just took a bunch of stuff that I loved. A lot of people have told me that they feel like it's the perfect hero's journey arc, like probably a classic male hero journey arc, because it starts with, the farm boy who raises up to the challenge that defeats the ultimate evil, and then goes and raises a family and has a nice, the whole circle, right? Mm-hmm. Volke is the main character. He is living on the Isle of Ruma, and he really idolizes an arcanist by the name of Gregory Ruma. Like, that's how his island got its name. So he thinks this guy is the best. He's read all the legends about him. He's a swashbuckler. He's got crazy magic. Ruma is bonded to a Leviathan, and Leviathans are very powerful and gives him lots of cool magic. And so Volke wants to be just like him. Through a series of unfortunate events, he bonds to a nightmare. And the nightmare's only condition with bonding is that they kill the man who killed the nightmare's previous arcanist. So Volke is like, that sounds great. That sounds like a great trade-off. I can't wait to be an arcanist. He becomes a nightmare arcanist, which is how we get the title of the book, right? And then he finally goes to the Frith Guild, where Gregory Ruma is one of the arcanists there. And it seems like he might be able to get trained by Gregory Ruma. And this is all of his dreams come true. But then when Luther sees Ruma, he tells Volke, that's the man who killed my arcanist. That's that guy right there. So, that's a fun premise, or at least I thought. That's like just the first book. The rest of the series quickly becomes a much bigger thing, because there's an arcane plague, and when the arcane plague touches people with magic or magical creatures, it transforms them into like insane monsters. And so there are dread forms of all sorts of magical creatures. In the very first book, the first thing that Volke has to fight is a dread form Whiteheart. So it's kind of an insane.
I love the Whiteheart. I mean, I'm terrified of the Whiteheart, but it was such a great monster design.
Yeah, at the same time. I wanted to make the most normal creature. Like, in mythology, there's all these creatures that are dangerous, that eat people. Like, I wanted to pick one of the creatures in mythology that is basically harmless, or might sound cool. Like, Whitehearts, the only thing that's cool about them is apparently they're elusive. They're hard to find. They're hard to hunt down. Like, that's the only thing they've got going for them. And I was like, I'm gonna make that monstrous. Like, I'm gonna make that like something you would be afraid of, because that would be funny. and that's what happens. There's an insane monster, Whiteheart. Volke has to fight it. It's spoopy, right? So there's this plague that's going around making all these monsters, and Volke gets caught up in basically the scheme of how this plague came about, why people are spreading it. They want to awaken god creatures, and they want to get god creatures. So they're, in mythology, there are things like the Fenris wolf, or like the world serpent, right? Like these are mythical creatures that are so huge and big and crazy that they're not normal. They're gods. So in my Frith Chronicles world, there are gods like that, and they wake them up. Again, it's just it's an adventure. It's one of those things where I'm like, all the adventure. There's an evil group doing evil things. We've got god creatures. We got magical powers. We got to stop an evil monster causing plague. We also have to fall in love for the first time because Volke is still pretty young. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like all the fun things you could possibly think of in an adventure. So I definitely put it all in there.
And thus far, I've only read the first one, but one thing I really like about it is though the story is very straightforward, you can see the little nuggets that you place there, like things that are absolutely going to be developed later. And I'm just, it's the kind of thing that makes me just want to read forward because I love those little hidden things. One thing I wanted to ask, how did you come up with the concept of the nightmare itself? Because there are a lot of, like you mentioned that a lot of your monsters draw from mythology or draw from, in the case of the White Heart, mundane things. The nightmare, though, is fairly unique amongst other monsters that I've seen. I really love the concept of it sort of Digimon style merging, well, maybe not Digimon style, but merging with Volke so that it can somewhat control him and whatnot and grant him power. And so how did that come about?
I mean, I guess it came about in a very complicated manner. Me and my husband made up a tabletop game, like Dungeons and Dragons, but we made up our own entire game. And as a part of that, I kind of made up the familiar system. You can bond with animals of pure magic, which is actually a lot of basis for my arcanist series. And because I'm overcomplicated, because we're just complicated people, all of the creatures fall into different categories, right? So there's shrubs, which are creatures that are like bushes or plants, or, and then there's animal-based ones, which have the basic shape of normal animals. And then there was a category called puppets. And these were creatures that looked like empty clothes. So like the nightmare is an empty suit of armor, right? In our tabletop game, they could be many things. It could be a cloak, or it could be a cape, or we even had like a superhero outfit, but it's just empty. It basically moves on its own. And the point of this creature was not to be separate from the player, but to merge and then give the player a bunch of powers. And then when they're merged, they're wearing the clothes, whatever the creature was, right? So I really liked these puppet creatures. I thought they were really fun and unique, and I liked them more than I liked a lot of the other styles of creatures because we had tons and tons of them. So I thought a nightmare would be really, really fun for the book. I thought it would be really fun for the main character because, to be frank, writing a character with a familiar sometimes gets a little tiring because then you're writing two characters all the time. But with a nightmare, when it merges to Volke, now I'm just writing one character again. So this was also really easy for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this helps me out just a whole bunch. It's also really cool. And I totally prescribe to the rule of cool.
Absolutely.
Logic. Like, if I can make something cool, I will make it cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, so main character had to have a cool creature to bond with. What's the coolest thing I can think of?
So back at the very beginning, when you were first designing this series, did the familiar element come first, or did the magic school element come first, or rather the training element come first, or did they both kind of happen at the same time?
It was definitely the creatures, because I really wanted to have people bond to creatures, and that's how you got your magic. Like, that's what I wanted first. And then I had the idea of the plague, like making the monsters, because that's really fun for just enemies, just in general. One of the things I hated about Pokemon, just generally, is that it feels very, very kiddish in a lot of ways. Like, the villains are extremely cartoonish, and they just seem to get more cartoonish with time. Like, Team Rocket is probably the most villainous in the entire Pokemon universe, because every generation they just get weirder and less threatening every single time. I mean, to the point where I think in the last one, which was a school setting, it was just a bunch of not even bullies, because they were like suspended from school and kicked out of the academy, and they're just randomly doing their own life. You know what I'm saying? Like, in different parts of the world, and you have to go around and be like, "Hey, get back to school."
I have to say, I found that element of the new games rather anticlimactic.
But this isn't a fun villain to defeat, in my humble opinion. It's fun to defeat evil. It's fun to see a person being bad and then going up and punching him in the face repeatedly. You know what I'm saying? Like, So I like the idea of monsters, and and then I was like, well, how do I get monsters into the story? Oh, this would be interesting, like, so that's how I kind of developed all of that. I really, really like conflicts of good and evil, like these kind of easily sorted themselves out. And then when I was later like, okay, well, Volk's going to get this nightmare and now he's going to train with it. Where is he going to train? We got the Frith Guild, like just lots and lots of fun things that just kind of all cascaded from there. Really easy to.
Now, here's a question. Speaking of childish villains versus non-childish villains, I know this series has Pokemon inspiration, but the ultimate question, were you more of a Pokemon fan or a Digimon fan?
So I think I said this in the Pecan panel when we were talking about Pokemon. I prefer the Pokemon video games. The Pokemon video games are really great. They're surprisingly in-depth. Most people are not even aware of all the hidden mechanics in the game because they just kind of play it casually. I really like all the creatures. I really like having a team of 6. I mean, there's lots and lots of things I could just go on about the games, gush about them. The anime or the story in the games, trash. I hate them. I don't enjoy them at all, not even a little bit. The closest we got to me enjoying a Pokemon story was maybe in Sun and Moon, where they had like an alternate dimension with Ultra Beasts. I don't know if you played that one, but it was fun. But only in like the abstract, because the game was like, whoa, there's another dimension with different Pokemons that are super bitchin'. And I'm like, wow, that sounds cool. Are we going to go there? And the game's like, no, not at all. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for getting my hype up. And then in the next game, I'm like, where are the Ultra Beasts? And they're like, shut your mouth. We're never going back to Ultra Beasts ever again. And I'm like, alrighty then. I guess, thanks.
Well, forget about that.
Yeah, don't look at them. And I'm like, okay, sorry. But Digimon, man, the first Digimon season with the characters that are isekai'd into the digital world, I'm here for that. I'm just gobbling that shit up. I know that every episode was damn near formulaic to the last, like episode 1 ties Digimon, Digivolves, to Greymon, and I'm like, nice. And then in the episode 2, it's Matt's Digimon, you know what I'm saying? Digivolves into Garurumon, and I'm like, nice. It's like
I tried to show my husband the first season of Digimon, and I hadn't watched it in years at that point, and there was a particular line that was repeated in every single episode, and I think Jacob made it 5 episodes in and couldn't do it anymore, but there was always this Digimon isn't a bad guy, they're a good Digimon, and then immediately the good Digimon, is infected by a black gear or whatever and attacks, and it became a running joke when we were watching at one point. But yeah, it's formulaic, but I have to say that to this day, like, I love both of them, but I have always loved Digimon just a little bit more, solely because the story was much more complex. It was darker. It was more complicated. And I like the character designs a little more. Like I love the stereotype with, I love the Pokemon character designs because they're so comfy, but I love the whole stereotype with Digimon where it starts out as this cute little thing and then suddenly evolves into this monster, and then suddenly there's like a refrigerator with miniguns on it. It's just so accurate.
Dude. Well, so what I was going to say is, even though the first kind of couple episodes of the Digimon season 1 were very formulaic, I mean, to the point where I could damn near list what happens in every episode, and I don't even need to remember. I just need to know the order of the kids that they prefer. Yeah, what they preferred. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though it's that formulaic, it quickly got less formulaic. We go back to Earth, we go back to the digital world. The kids need to go get Ty's sister. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I love those storylines.
Yeah, very fun. Season 2, also very fun. I had a great time with season 2, and even season 3. Whichever one has Beelzemon, I'm pretty sure it's season 3.
I think it's season 3, yeah.
Dude, he's my fucking favorite Digimon I've ever seen in my goddamn life. That guy is the rule of cool fucking drawn on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got a shotgun, his arm turns into a fucking laser cannon, he rides on a motorcycle. There's like so many things about it where I'm like, they had all these ideas for cool, and they cut none of it. They did all of them. Yeah. They were like, we have no notes. Everything is beautiful. Put them into the same character. And I was like, oh, jeez. He gets black wings. Come on now. I mean, what the fuck? Like all the cool things that you could possibly put in. So little Shami was just blown away. His storyline too just got dark as hell. killing Leomon and the girl.
Leomon had it rough in that series. No matter what form he was in, like he always got beaten up. He was like the Worf, kind of.
Yes, yeah. I think it's a running joke. Like I feel like Leomon fucking gets it.
It may be at this point. It's I can't remember the last Digimon show I watched because it seems like the universe gets revamped every few series, and I lose track because I'm old and I don't have time to watch stuff anymore.
Well, yeah, I stopped watching it when it started to get really bizarre. I tried to rewatch so they had movies of the original cast from season 1, and they're like, here's movies when they're adults. I hate them.
Oh, I do too. I wanted so much to like them.
So boring and awful, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, it's like on one end, I think it's cool that you get to see the characters grow up, but then they're doing grown-up things, and it's like, you guys have little magical monsters that you're with. Like, stop worrying about grown-up things and go do cool monster stuff.
See, this is one of the things that I kind of dislike about anime, because I don't know why, but anime keeps doing this over and over and over and over again. They'll have, like, a character goes to a magical land, has a magical whimsical adventure, but they're not really an adult and mature until they come back to the real world and give that all up, because that's for babies. And I'm just like, come on, guys, man, please.
Like, no, I'm staying in the magical world. It's right there.
What the fuck? When Escaflowne ended with the main character going back to the real world, I was like, boo, boo. Yep. I sat through all of this to watch her go back to Earth.
Yes.
No, boo.
It's like, I know there's some thematic reason why they choose to do it, but it's like, no, you got this cool magical world with magic giant robots powered by dragon hearts. I mean, stay.
It's always like I have to go back to where I belong. This is where I belong. I've got to be mature and return to the real world. I hate it. I don't care what the fucking reason is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
none of my characters go back to where they belong. Like, I love Isekai, and I don't think any of my characters are ever going to go back to their home world, because all of my characters are like monster hunters and playing around in giant robots. I mean, who wants to leave that? You know?
See, I can understand if you went into a magical world and you were some wacky peasant, and every other day you thought your farmhouse was going to explode because
like if it was lame, definitely go back home to the modern world.
Yeah, go back home to the modern world. I understand, but when you're the person who goes there and you're the person with all the magical powers, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, I'm like, do not go back to Earth. What?
All right, let's talk about the Kickstarter a little bit. So first off, you ran a Kickstarter previously for the first 2 books, and it was a special shiny leather-bound edition with extra illustrations, and this one is slightly different in that it focuses on the Dreadform illustrations. Am I right? So just give us a rundown. What's involved in this Kickstarter? And also, guys, if you have any questions for Shami, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to them.
Whoa. So in the first Kickstarter, I had books 1 and 2 of the Frith Chronicles, and I had a bestiary. So I had artwork for all the creatures, sometimes like their true form, which is another way that they can change, and sometimes the little baby illustrations, like what they look like when they're tiny little baby creatures. And I detailed all their powers, so what kind of powers you get for bonding with them, like all that kind of stuff. So somebody compared it to like having a super remastered Blu-ray edition with all the deleted scenes and all the director commentary, like cut of a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what this is. It's the ultra deluxe Blu-ray edition of the Frith Chronicles with just tons and tons of artwork. I have some really amazing artists who did some fantastic stuff for the interior of it, and I'm really, really hyped for how it turned out. There are a lot of authors that do Kickstarter editions, and most of the time, not that I want to be like, they suck, theirs is beautiful too. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's is beautiful. Just calm down. You know what I'm saying? But normally they'll say stuff, they'll be like, okay, you get 4 or 6 interior illustrations, you know, like of a scene from the book or something like that. And apparently I'm like one of the very few that has ever done like 70 illustrations in the book.
They're a crazy amount of illustrations.
Yeah, tons of illustrations. We had to do something special for the printing because I wanted all the illustrations to be on a nicer paper so that it was nice and crisp, you know, as opposed to like the normal standard book paper, which doesn't really carry the crispness. So we had to do something special for that, but we got it. We worked around it. It totally came out beautiful. I love it. You can get books 1 and 2 as a part of this new Kickstarter because I ordered a whole bunch of extra.
Oh, nice.
So just like in traditional publishing, how they do like a print run, you know, like they'll print X amount of books and then they have to sell all of them before they do another print run. I just did that with the first edition, or with the first Kickstarter. As soon as I got my funds, I put in a really large order, way more than even the people that backed. That way, when I did these subsequent Kickstarters, I always had more of these books ready to sell along with it. So if you missed books 1 and 2, don't worry. In this Kickstarter for 3 and 4, you can just order those guys, and then you too can have a super shiny Blu-ray edition of a book. And in books 3 and 4, I'm doing a bestiary again, and it's going to focus on how the magics change and how the creature changes when they become a dread form. So like the White Heart, for example, I have the White Heart in the first bestiary, but it's like how a White Heart is supposed to look, and the normal types of magic a White Heart is supposed to have, and lore about a White Heart, you know what I'm saying? And this one, I'll have a dread form White Heart, and it's going to be, like the crazy dead fisheye look monster that you saw in the books, and then talks about its types of magic and how it changed from being corrupted and stuff like that. So the second bestiary is definitely going to be more like menacing, or focus more on monsters and stuff like that, which is fun. You know what I'm saying? Some of the artwork is already sick as hell. I've only gotten 2 pieces of artwork for my artist. Is like, I wanted to have like an example to show people on my Kickstarter page. So I had one made, and then he made a second one, which is the Dreadform Phoenix, which shows up in the first book. It's the very end of Nightmare Arcanist. And I got that also sick as hell. Yeah, the artist did a fantastic job. So I'm really down for all that. So I'm really excited. I think it's at 50K so far, which is way higher than what I needed.
It funded the day you started, right? Like within a few hours of starting, I think. I remember
2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So, totally funded. So we're good to go. So if you back it now, you're going to get the book. It's not like we're in danger of not funding. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be great. I can't wait. If we get high enough, if we get to 60K, which is plausible. I mean, we're already at 50K. We still have a week to go. If we get to 60K, I will have enough extra funds to order plushies. So yeah, I had a plushie made of one of the characters from the books. I think he's here on my desk. So he's here. He's like it's a little weasel. Yep, it's Nicholin. I went to a person who does like stuffed animals, like, and had like a schematic made of them and stuff. So that took forever. In all seriousness, we want to talk for another 3 hours about how horrible it is to get a fucking plushie made. Jesus Christ. That took some of my sanity. I lost years of my life because I had to deal with these people.
I'm curious, what's the short version of what makes it so challenging?
Incompetence. I guess it's the shortest version I can say. The talking to the artist who did this, I had to talk through a third party through this company. Maybe I should have just used a different company. But I had to talk to one guy, and he had to telephone my instructions to this other guy. And then they got back with a thing, and I'm like, that's not what I told you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, God damn. Only repeat that 17 times. But we finally got it. It's okay. We don't need to talk about that horror story. But I have him, so now I have the schematic ready. So if we get enough funding, I'll be able to pay for a ton of plushies to be made, and then everybody who backs the book can get a plushie. Like that kind of thing. So
what stretch rewards have you guys reached thus far?
We got ribbon bookmarks. We got a map of Thronehold, which is the really big city in book 3. And at 50K is I'm going to design the Arcanist class for Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games. Yeah, so if you wanted to be an Arcanist while you play D&D, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to everybody will just get that. They'll just get cool information. This is how you do D&D Arcanist class. You know what I'm saying? So that'll be fun. I can't wait for that. 60K is the Nicholin plushie. 75K, I'm going to make guild pendants. So in the universe, there are like metal guild pendants that everybody wears that denotes, whether or not they're a journeyman or things like that, their level of Arcanist. And I'm going to make them for the Steelthorn Inquisitors, which is a guild in the 3rd book. It's kind of a big deal, as a part of the plot line. So And then at 100K, I'll do a plushie of Luther. And, you know, I don't think we're going to make 100K, but if we did make 100K, I could at least
That's going to be a cool reward if you do.
Yeah, I can at least afford to do that. So we'll try.
Yeah. Cool. All right, my computer just sent me a message. Okay. All right. So, do you plan on making special editions for the entire series?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just going to do 2 books. So it's an 8-book series. So if I have 4 Kickstarters total, you know what I'm saying? Like books 1 and 2, books 3 and 4, books 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8. That's a complete set. It'll look beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like it, and it's the deluxe Blu-ray edition of these guys. So
yeah, I love the fanciness of it. Like I'm a sucker for foil on covers, and every single time I see the front of those things, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they allowed me to do like a tricolor foil. So apparently it's just more and more costly every color of foil you want to add to the cover, but I didn't want to have one color because it's a little plain, right? But they allowed me to do the triple color. That was super beautiful. I'm hyped.
It's like they're special editions. You got to make them extra special.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yep. All right. Now, is the series finished? Like you said there was another one coming out, right? Or is it?
Oh yeah. So I had a sequel series called the Astro Academy, and it's like 70 years in the future from the Frith Chronicles. And I have another book in that series coming out. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So the Frith Chronicles themselves are done, but there are other offshoots.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Hey, right. Okay. Let's see here. Let me see if I have any other questions about the series. And we're about halfway through, so I think it's time to talk about Pokemon now. Now, I need you to give people context for how much of a Pokemon nerd you are, because you guys, I sit here and I grew up with the TV show and the anime, with the anime and the initial games when they first came out, and I collected the cards, but mostly just to look at them because I like shiny pieces of paper. Now, Shami, you are on a whole other level. Tell everyone about all of your involvement with Pokemon.
Tell everybody about my autism. Because I got into the games, but I got really hardcore into the games. I played competitively, like I went to Nintendo tournaments and played against people. Lately, they do it online where they have a competitive ladder where you can climb up the ladder and rankings and also the kind of stuff. It's very intense. It's probably more intense than a normal person should ever be. You know what I'm saying? Like I realize that I perhaps might have too much Pokemon information. Like I realize that nobody should be me. But yeah, I've played every game, and I mean every game, not just like the generation, but like if they come out with Ruby and Sapphire, I played both Ruby and Sapphire. I play them all religiously.
What's your favorite of the video games that have released?
Oh, I really liked Gen 5, which were black and white. Black and white were definitely my favorite generation. They still had the pixel art, only the pixel art moved this time. They were super cute. My favorite Pokemon is in there, Scraggy. Not competitively. Scraggy's not competitive at all, but Scraggy is definitely my favorite just conceptually. He's like the cutest fucking Pokemon I've ever seen in my life. I love that guy. And I really liked, it's set in America, or, you know, the American equivalent of in the Pokemon universe, which is pretty hilarious. The Bravery, which is the like bald eagle, it's like red, white, and blue eagle named Bravery in the fucking zone. And I'm like, dude, this is so American.
American thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, America. So I'm definitely into all of that. Everything about black and white was cool. Like it had the rule of cool shit going on. It had the black dragon with electricity. Electric type is one of my favorite types in the game. It had a white dragon over here with its crazy fire. It had a jet engine tail. You can't tell me these things weren't cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. What about you? What were your favorite gen?
Well, I played red and blue and then got to second gen. And at that point, like soon after that, I decided I was too old for Pokemon, which is lame. And I only actually started replaying the games within the past few years. And so I have to say that my favorite overall generation is probably second gen, just because of there's a certain nostalgia factor associated with the first generation that I feel like kind of it's its own thing. But with second gen, with Gold and Silver, the games, I really liked the mechanic where you could go and if you went out at night, you found different Pokemon than you did during the day. And my little 13-year-old brain thought that was the coolest thing ever. But I have to say that I really like the most recent generation because it's the first one really since those early generations that has made me excited for the Pokemon designs, and maybe not necessarily for the story, but for the general vibe in a way that echoed my initial childhood Pokemon experience. Like I love the puns of some of the new ones. I love the general designs. Like I love Smoliv just because it's olive and it's small, and that just the pun tickles my brain. And there's another one too that I just absolutely love, like Lechonk. I just love
Lechonk, yeah,
because Lechonk, and it's just there's Fido is another one just because it's a dog made out of bread, which is what the hell, but the pun Fido is spectacular.
Yes,
but yeah, I think I played of the recent ones. I played Violet. And I think that's one of my favorite Pokemon games. So granted, I haven't played nearly as many of them as you. But I want to say of the, I'm also pretty partial to Pokemon Yellow game-wise, because for whatever reason, I was a huge Pikachu fan. Like I'm still a Pikachu fan. I got fat Pikachu right here, like original from 25 years ago, and I've got like a sleepy Pikachu pillow like that hangs on my desk. And I know it's absolutely basic because he's the Pokemon mascot, but I really loved being able to. Oh,
it's Scraggy. He's my favorite. He's on my best
Scraggy merch because some Pokemon are so hard to find merch for when they're not the big ones.
You can pull up his pants. The pants fall down. I've got multiple Scraggies around. So.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what is it about Scraggy other than the design? Is there some great lore that you particularly like?
No, there's no lore at all because apparently he's a lizard whose skin shed off, like lizards do, but then he kept it like a pair of pants. And so he's like a little hoodlum with his pants falling down, which is just funny to me. I guess gameplay wise, he is dark and fighting type. And I like both dark and fighting type just conceptually. So that's really awesome. Now that does make him 4 times weak to fairy, which means he's not competitive at all, but he's cool in game. That's it.
Yeah. I think other than Pikachu, I think my favorite Pokemon is actually Trubbish for the sole reason it's just a bag of trash. I love the absolute silliness of it. And then when it evolves to Garbodor?
Yeah.
It's just I absolutely love the silliness of Pokemon. Like it's a very I think the thing I like about it overall is I tend to engage more with the world of it than with the game mechanics of it. And Pokemon to me, it feels like almost cozy fantasy in a way where you go and you can be friends with the monsters. And yeah, there are some bad guys, but they're like Team Rocket, and it's a lot cozier than say Digimon, which Digimon is still my favorite, but it's definitely more rugged and edgy. And sometimes I just want to engage in a world that is just sweet and laid back. And let's see here.
Well, so with Pokemon, the thing that I have always found weird that does take me out of like just immersing myself in the world is that it's not really a world. It's clearly a video game thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you go into a store, I mean, I think I made this joke at Pecan, you can buy Pokeballs and Pokemon.
But nothing else.
Yeah, but nothing else. Can you buy groceries? Of course not. Go fuck yourself. The hospital is only for Pokemon. It's not for people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's that uncanny valley. That's not even uncanny valley because they're not even trying. It's this constant reminder that this is not an actual world where actual people live.
Yeah.
This was an artificial world put here for you to play a game where you interact with Pokemon. And I desperately, like, they kind of got close with it with Arceus Legends, which
Mhm.
is like the only time, in my humble opinion, that they've even attempted to be like, look, here's a human civilization, and you can go out and interact with a Pokemon, but come back, and the human civilization is still a coherent human civilization. You know what I'm saying? Like, where we do things, and I'm like, okay. I guess I just desperately, from Pokemon, constantly want more than they're willing to give me, because I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, why don't you put some of this world building together a little bit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, how come we don't have things for people? You know what I'm saying? Does
Yeah.
anybody ever become anything than a Pokemon trainer? It'd
Yeah.
be great.
And,
If
in retrospect, I think that's one of the things that actually made me enjoy the world more, though, and also encouraged a lot of creativity on my part. Because one of the I really started getting into writing around the same time that Pokemon was rising, and I had been writing before and been creative before, but for whatever reason, my brain just absolutely latched on to some of these holes in the Pokemon universe, and I loved the monster friend aspect. I love the monster friend aspect of Pokemon and of Digimon, but I loved the darkness and plot of Digimon more. And there was a part of me that was like, you know what? I see this flaw. I'm just going to write my own. And a lot of my early stories were very, very clearly Pokemon inspired, but they had this. It wasn't high fantasy like the Arcanist series is. It was very anime, very, very dark, complex anime inspired, because it was the Toonami era. Like, I went directly from Pokemon to Gundam Wing, and it was reflected in my writing. But that sort of artificial video game nature of the world, kind of, in a way, it kind of became a playground for my mind. And to this day, I mean, I love bad movies to this day because the plot holes in them serve the same purpose. Like, my brain will just go in and try to fill in the plot holes, and then suddenly, oh, there's an idea for a novel.
there you
And
go.
so, yeah, it's really cool to see how different people engage with different areas of the Pokemon franchise, because there's so much to it. There are so many different ways to get into it. Now we know that Scraggy is your favorite in general. Do you have a favorite for competitive play?
Um, yeah, I have a couple that are some of my favorites for competitive play. I really like Zapdos for competitive play. He's pretty powerful. Now, obviously, the legendary Pokemon have higher stats, like a higher baseline stat, so clearly he's good. But the Thunder typing or the Electric typing really is just is underappreciated in my humble opinion. It does a lot of damage to a lot of tanks. A ton of the walls in the game are usually water types, because for whatever reason Pokemon loves to give the water typing an outrageous amount of HP. Like, that's just their dump stat, or not dump stat, but it's the stat everything is dumped into. And lightning, electricity usually tears right through them. I also really love giving Zapdos hidden power, grass, so that he has a grass move, which is usually shocking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's always fun. I also really love using Trick Room. Do you know what I mean when I say that, or no?
No.
Okay. So there's a move in the game called Trick Room, and when you activate it for the next 5 turns, the speed stat is reversed.
Ooh.
So if you have a low speed, you go first, and if you have a high speed, you go last.
Mhm.
Normally, it's the opposite, right? So a lot of the times, I love setting up a Trick Room team by being tricky. So if I lead with a Zapdos, most people aren't going to be like, "Well, she's got a Trick Room team," right? But then when I switch into like a Bronzong or somebody that can handle an attack to Zapdos and then go into a Trick Room, gotcha, bitch. You know what I'm saying? That's what I live for, is those types of moments where I'm like, I just won this whole fucking match. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the moment that draws me to competitive play, is the outthinking the opponent. It's a little hard to describe if you've never played competitive Pokemon, but because you get 6 Pokemon, because each Pokemon has 4 moves, when you play competitively, like, you get into this autistic state where if I see somebody's Gengar, I know exactly the 4 moves he's running. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen Gengar 500 times and they're all the exact same moveset. And then if I know his moveset, I can guess what he's going to do.
Right.
But when people fake you out, you know what I'm saying? When they've got a different moveset that they're not supposed to have, and I'm like, But again, I could talk about this for hours. And since I'm probably the only one here that's played Pokemon competitively, this is going to be me, in my own weird circle jerk here talking about competitive Pokemon. So
well, I am fascinated by it. See, I play the Digimon card game, and so I love trading card games. But I've never actually played the Pokemon card game extensively, despite collecting it extensively, just because the main person I play with is my husband, and he finds the Pokemon card game boring, which probably hasn't played it right. but yeah, and so it's like I appreciate the strategy behind it, even if I haven't played before. Now I have to ask, primarily because this was such a fun part of the panel, what's your least favorite Pokemon?
Dude, it's that stupid ice cream Pokemon. Okay, I could give another 2-hour speech about this fucking ice cream cone Pokemon. Okay, it starts as a soft serve ice cream cone. It's floating. It's got little arms but it floats. It evolves, and it's like a 2-scoop ice cream cone. And when it gets into its final stage, it has like 2 heads. It's an ice cream cone with 2 parts, 2 heads. One of them has like a straw jabbed into its noggin, and it's got like fucking ice coming out of it. I mean, it looks like the most hideous thing ever. I think they were trying to make it look stupid, like, you know what I'm saying? And I hate it. There's no evolutionary advantage to ever looking like an ice cream cone. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
those are everything. I've never understood the logic of the food related ones. It's just like it's a creature, but and I mean, technically all creatures are food. I mean, I'm sure that there's someone somewhere eating a Pokemon in the Pokemon universe, in the dark corners of it. But it's just an ice cream cone. It's like that doesn't occur in nature.
Yeah, dude.
Even in the Pokemon. Well, I mean, I guess it does in the Pokemon nature. But
all the food Pokemon I hate, but the ice cream one in particular offends me because in its final evolution, it looks like it lost 60 IQ from its base 70 IQ. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck happened here? Like, I hate it. I hate it so much. Like,
do you ever use any of the food Pokemon in competition, despite hating them, or are they kind of useless in competition too?
There aren't very many food-based Pokemon that are competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Fido was a little bit competitive, mostly because of his ability, which made him immune to like fire attacks.
Oh yeah,
because Fido and he's fairy type, so he was a really good backup Pokemon for some people. There are a lot of Pokemon in the game that are 4 times weak to fire, so you might have them out, and then when somebody switches into their fire Pokemon, you're going to switch into Fido or something like that. Mm-hmm. But there are other Pokemon that are better than Fido for taking the fucking hit. There are a ton of Pokemon that have Flash Fire, which is an ability that also absorbs fire, but then powers them up. You know what I'm saying? Like, So Fido is really it's very niche. That's the only one that I can think of. I mean, I guess people use Lacremi or Creamy or whatever the fuck his name was in the previous generation. But again, that was also very brief. Fairy typing is just really, really useful. It's very good defensively. It's very good offensively. And a lot of those food fuckers are fairy types. So, but yeah, that's it. The only ones I can really think of are Lacremi and Fido, who were in the competitive scene, and even then they were outclassed by others.
Mm-hmm. I can't really say that I have any Pokemon I distinctly hate, but I do dislike the low effort ones. And there's one that's called Love Disc, and it's literally heart. And it's like I don't know anything about its lore or about its use in the game. I just caught it in Pokemon Go once and was like, "What the hell?" and then I have to bring up Klefki.
Oh god, I love Klefki.
Defend Klefki.
Yeah. I know that Klefki looks stupid. Okay, I'm aware that if you're just generally like, this is a Pokemon and he looks like a key ring with some keys hanging off of him, I understand. That sounds stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust me. However, in the Pokemon lore, they have like these fairies and these ghosts possessing items. And this is why I don't hate item-based Pokemon. You know, like the chandelier. There's a dude that's just a fucking chandelier. That's all he is. There's a Pokemon who's a lawnmower. There's a Pokemon who's a washing machine. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know there was a washing machine and lawnmower one. How did I miss those?
Yeah, actually, I have the plushie for the washing machine.
Oh my gosh!
I love the washing machine. And he's got a little hose, right? Like, there you go. And he's got his little.
Oh, that's great.
Door. He's one of my favorites. I use him in competitive play all the time. I love this
What
house.
about that one makes it good for competitive play? It's a washing machine.
Oh, dude, he is fantastic in competitive play. I use him in a ton of my teams. The name for him I have is No Calm All Riot, because so his name is Rotom, and he's an electric type. He's an electric ghost normally, and when he possesses different appliances in your house, he changes his typing. So this guy's electric water, right? So he levitates, so he can't be damaged for being an electric type like that. I love Rotom. I love him possessing things. Klefki is like in the exact same category. It's like possessing the keys, and it's stealing them because a lot of the fairies are based off of mischief spirits. Yeah. It's like collecting keys from you or taking your keys, things like that. And that amuses me because that's cute little lore. Additionally, competitively, Klefki is a beast. He is he's steel fairy typing, which is super duper good defensively. And his ability, prankster or trickster, I can't remember because sometimes I play the games in Japanese and then I get used to the names of abilities and stuff in the Japanese, and then the English translates them slightly differently. They mean the exact same thing, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Is there a difference in the gameplay experience between Japanese and English other than the language?
No, it's just how they translate things. The gameplay is the exact same. And so Klefki has this prankster ability, and it allows any non-damaging move to go first automatically, like no matter what. So there are a ton of non-damaging moves in the game that are just crazy awesome if they can go first. And Klefki does that. Klefki comes in, and he's like the bro that helps your entire team because he'll just show up, and he'll be like, shields for everybody, because you can put a barrier and all this other kind of stuff, and he's just there to be the support guy. And I love Klefki. He is one of my favorites. And my washing machine, Wash Rotom, also one of my favorites. So
I have so much more appreciation for these object Pokemon now.
Yeah, I love object Pokemon, and I hate food Pokemon.
All right. Well, we are getting close to the top of the hour, and this has been a super fun podcast. I think we spent more time talking about Pokemon than about the actual book.
It's okay though. I love talking about Pokemon to death. I love talking about my books. This was a great podcast.
Oh yeah, and for real, you guys, if you have had even the slightest amount of fun listening to this, you should absolutely go read the Frith Chronicles series. It's a whole lot of fun. Go contribute to the Kickstarter. I'll put those links in the comments again. Shami, do you have any conventions or signings or other kind of fun stuff coming up?
I don't believe so. I thought I might be going to Dragonsteel, which is Brandon Sanderson's con. But I don't think I'm going to be doing that. So that was going to be in December. So I won't know if I'm going to do anything until I think it's going to be next year. Yeah.
I think all of us authors are kind of winding down. I think Jacob and I have a signing coming up with two other authors at the end of October, but that's pretty much it for the year.
Nice.
So yeah. Before I have a sign off, I have just again put in the comments, if you want to try to win a signed copy of Nightmare Arcanist, go ahead and fill out that form and we will select a winner right after the podcast. Also, if you want to go contribute to the Kickstarter and get a whole bunch of cool stuff, that link is in there as well. And how much longer does it have left? 1 week, you said?
7 days. 7 days remaining.
So yeah, you've got 7 days to go get that and maybe hopefully get at least one plushie.
Yes.
All right. Well, before we sign off, thank you again, Shami, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Where can everybody find your stuff?
You mean to buy?
Yes.
On my website or on Amazon. I think I'm one of the only Shami authors that writes fantasy. So it'll be easy. It'll be easy to find me if you type in my name. But yeah, there you go. Amazon and my website.
All right. So, and you guys absolutely go read all of her stuff forever. But yes, thank you again for joining me. And thank you everyone for watching. And we will see